Hello, welcome to Christianity Explained. As you guys know, uh, artificial intelligence and and chat all the way. But should Christians really be worried about it? Well, before I let my friend introduce uh, something chat says, I wanted to throw up a little bit of scripture here. Believe it or not, the Bible actually does talk about something that suspiciously sounds like artificial intelligence. And it was written 2,000 years ago. Uh,
Hmm.
let me switch over here so I can read it. This is from Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. Hmm. And it's the New King James Version. He, the Antichrist or his prophet, gave uh, granted power uh, to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should uh, both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Well, funny thing is, when I read that originally, I didn't think much of it, but apparently uh, they're not alone. Have you folk ever heard of Arthur C. Clarke and H.G. Wells, and more importantly, and very relevant, Dr. Isaac Asimov? Asimov talked about artificial intelligence. He did, unless you never heard of iRobots and all those wonderful things, artificial intelligence. Never mind the movies. And yet these wonderful secular prophets, by the way, they were atheists who had enough sense to recognize the potential harm and danger. And it seems that we're not the only one. So buckle your seatbelt, as my friend Randy and I get into. Randy, I think you had something to share. You want me to
Yes.
bring it up?
Well, first of all, one of the things we have to understand about Bible prophecy is it isn't always a direct statement. Um, One of the reasons the book of Revelation is written the way it is because they were facing a real and immediate danger from the Roman Empire. And actually, when you think about it, the conditions that led up to the writing of the book of Revelation is that the Apostle John was in exile by
Mm,
the Roman government on the island of Patmos. And so, just like today, everybody talking about disinformation and misinformation
mhm,
and everything like this. Well, they had the same thing back then. It was just in handwriting. It wasn't on the digital platforms like we have today.
mhm,
And so the apostle John, when he wrote the book of Revelation, he had to write it in figurative language. He had to use signs and symbols to represent what he was trying to tell the people. And the people he was writing to, of course, were familiar with the Old Testament, and they were able to see. So that's why you'll see a lot of references in Revelation.
Oh yeah.
But I'm with Barry here when I read that. The power of the First of all, Antichrist is not just a person. Antichrist is a spirit. Okay. So it's more than just one individual. Yes, there will be an individual called the Antichrist, but the Apostle John wrote that even now, and that's back 2,000 years ago, he said there are many Antichrists.
Mm,
Okay. So even though there's going to be one, it was all going to come together with one Antichrist, there's many Antichrists.
mm,
So now, this verse that he's talking about in particular, uh, he has an image made. You have the Antichrist, you have the false prophet, and then you have an image. Now, an image is not the thing itself, but something that represents it. So this image is going to represent, and then power is given to this image to speak I mean, how would the apostles and the people that lived back in that day, how would they be able to describe the internet? How would they be able to describe digital technology? How would they be I mean, to them, it would seem like magic. I don't know who the person was, but there's somebody that said that any technology that is advanced enough, seems like magic to the people that came before it. And I don't remember who said that, but, that's true. Back in that day, they wouldn't have any idea to understand the internet or to understand artificial intelligence or, any of these things. And, um, what we're facing right now with artificial intelligence and that sort of thing, these warnings that are going out about it that people are trying to, say is how can I say it? They're trying to get ahead of the curve. They're trying to get the warning out early because right now, the only thing that artificial intelligence can really do is respond to us. We are going to look here in a minute at like Chat GPT
Mm-hmm.
4. And, the thing is that right now, you have to type in a question, you have to ask it something, and then it responds based on what you ask it. And then we can get into a little bit more of that here in a minute. But what they're trying to warn us about is that as it increases in capability, as memory gets bigger, more data is able to be stored, more data is able to be
Mm.
manipulated, that it'll get to the place that it doesn't need us to ask it anything any longer.
Oh yeah.
That it will be so advanced in its capabilities that it'll do things on its own instead of just. And some people might say, well, that's ridiculous, Randy. That can never happen. I'll tell you what, if you have a computer, you have one of these, it's already happening.
Oh yeah.
It's in a different form, but it's
Mm-hmm.
already happening. If you open up a computer and you have Windows or you have Linux,
Yeah.
that is an operating system. And basically, what it does is it just calls itself over and over and over and over and over again until
Mm.
you enter a command to make it stop. And the fear and the danger with artificial intelligence is that it'll be so good at running itself
Mm.
that number one, it doesn't need us to ask it anything anymore. Number two, we won't be able to tell it to stop.
Mm.
That's where the danger lies, I believe.
That's only one of the dangers, and I can illustrate one of the key dangers, which has tied into the misinformation. Yesterday, I used the ChatGPT based that's built into my Edge browser. I asked the question: should Christians worry about uh, ChatGPT? I got a very interesting reaction, and and I'll say interesting. It gave me a report that supposedly from the Business Inquirer, a liberal news magazine, that, and it had whoever the owner of Gab, a right wing conservative uh, outlet, going unhinged out there. But when I read what Czech gave me, I'm like, really? It was kind of out there. So I read the actual article on Business Inquirer, and the guy, okay, yes, he was liberal, secular, okay. He like, what is this guy talking about? He wasn't quite making the president or whoever it was from Gab into a nut job. He was just like, I'm not understanding the danger here. What is he reacting to? And what? But thankfully, the author of Business Inquirer did me the favor of, hey, welcome aboard. Uh, I see somebody.
Oh, that was me. I was sending a
Oh,
message out to the
all right.
chat.
So I asked, so thanks to the author of the Business Inquirer article, I was able to check the actual article that was put out by Gab. Okay, a bit much, but he was making about a point that we needed Christians, especially people whose hearts are closely aligned to Christian Judeo-Christian values, need to get involved with the development of AI, and that we need to get involved because the problem with chat isn't chat per se.
Right.
It's the people who are programming it. Because when
Right.
we impart things into chat, when in any kind of program, we're imparting value system that guides us in what we consider valuable or what we think is okay. Uh, Now, the way I knew, because I had practiced something called discernment or critical thinking, and
That's
that's
work.
what told me. That's what told me to say, wait a minute, let me read what the guy. But here's the thing, I want to circle back to what Chat said. Chat twisted what the liberal at Business Inquirer said, where he sounded like somebody was hitting an alarm and reacting. Not really. Not really. He was concerned, but no. Even Gab, okay, not quite, but typical left wing, but not out there. Those guys were fine. Chat was somehow twist based on whatever the logic is. So I'm not looking at chat. I'm looking at the people who programmed and told it, hey, put in this. And
Yeah.
the real and the get know what the actual danger is in the midst of that? If people do not think through what they're reading, they just
Absolutely.
see and they go, "Ooh, oh my God, that guy from Gab." If you're a liberal, you'll say, "Oh my God, that guy from Gab is a real nut job." Well, or if you're a conservative, "Oh my God, that liberal is a freaking idiot."
Right.
You might think the worst of both people when in reality, no, they weren't. They're actually within reason. They weren't out there, but their views influence how they write. And
Yeah.
we need to do that. And news articles aren't the only thing that can get twisted. Oh,
Right. Well, and that's part of the problem today is people make decisions not based on critical thinking, like you said.
mm-hmm.
Most of the decisions we make are based on emotion, and there are some people. Well, that's the reason why we have an advertising industry. I mean, how many people see ads on TV that give you every logical reason why you should buy this product? Okay, no, they show you pictures and images and say things to evoke an emotional response, and then you creates a desire in you for that item. So I mean that's been going on for decades. Um, the thing with this artificial intelligence is that they have created a repository of information that is bigger than what one single human mind can store and recall instantaneously almost. And so it doesn't make any discrimination. It doesn't reason in a moral way because it doesn't have a spirit.
No,
It doesn't have a conscience.
no.
It's I think I was reading the other day that OpenAI, which is the one behind Chat GPT, and
Yeah.
then another one, it's read 10% of the internet, just 10%. And that's what it's basing a lot of its responses and its knowledge on.
Mm.
And even with that, you have the people who actually programmed it. They're the ones who chose what 10% of the internet it was going to
Mm.
read.
Yeah.
So there's your bias. It's
Mm-hmm.
built into it,
Yep.
because it's whatever they decided was worthy of information
Mm-hmm.
to give it for it to respond with.
Sounds like an old program maxim, garbage in. garbage out. If
Exactly.
if whatever you put into the code, whatever it is you instruct chat or whatever else, you're gonna receive right back what you put in. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah,
and
and what's garbage is going to be a subjective decision based upon the
that's
person,
true.
you know. So,
I think
well,
you had some things you wanted to show.
I was going to say I got a Chat GPT 4 up here. Um, if I can find my mouse again, I keep losing my mouse.
Yeah,
I got three
I
monitors here. That's one of the problems. I keep losing my mouse. I wanted to click on the. There we go. I found it. Okay,
mhm.
so I did a little question. I'm doing a research for a teaching that I'm going to be doing this Sunday night on the discerning of spirits, which is one of the manifestations of the spirit. So I was wanting to see if this could help me out with a little research. So I said, create a list of verses in the English Standard Version of the Bible containing the word spirit. And it gave me a list. It gave me like 15. And it actually gave me the scriptures. So, it gave me what I asked for. I asked for a list of scriptures, and then that's what it gave me. And then down at the bottom of the question, it says, remember, there's many more verses containing the word spirit in the Bible. To find more, you can use an online Bible search tool or concordance. Well, that seems safe enough. It helped me out. I didn't have to go thumbing through a concordance or
Mhm.
looking through a list of other things. I was just able to ask a question and get an answer, and that's all right. Um, but now I decided, well, let's ask it itself. What are the potential dangers to humanity
Oh,
from uncontrolled artificial intelligence? Because I was listening to a interview the other night with Elon Musk and Tucker
mm,
Carlson,
yeah,
and the thing that hit me about what Tucker, not Tucker, but the thing that hit me
Elon.
about what Elon said was his greatest fear about AI is it would get to the point where it would be able to write on its own without any input from a human being, that it would
Mm,
be able to write in such a manner that it would be indistinguishable from a human being.
mm,
And that as a result of that, it would be able to become a source of authority. And that is when it would cross over the line. And then, Barry, what you said earlier about how people respond to things, that they just read it, it was on the internet, it must be true,
yeah.
you know? Yet, but it could be like some AI is out there writing this. So
Mm,
I asked the question, I said, well, what is the potential danger? And I got a bunch of responses back. Uh, Now, this is Chat GPT 4, which is the latest version of Chat GPT. And here's the answer it gave me. Uncontrolled artificial intelligence poses several potential dangers to humanity. I mean, talk about self confession. Says, while AI has numerous beneficial applications, it is crucial to address these risks in order to develop safe and responsible AI systems. And then it gives me a whole list of things. Now, some of these, this is more to the economic job displacement, misaligned objectives. Um, I mean, listen to this: AI systems designed without proper consideration of their alignment with human values. Now, as a Christian, we would replace that with godly values.
mm-hmm.
Okay, not aligned with godly values could inadvertently pursue goals that conflict with those of their human operators if you put in human
Mm,
values, but with goals of God.
mm-hmm.
Okay, it reminds me of that scripture where Jesus went into a Samaritan village and they didn't want him there because he was on his way to Jerusalem. And James and John, good old James and John, the sons of thunder, they said, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire
Let's
from
call
heaven
out fire.
to
No.
destroy their village?" And man, they thought they were being zealous for Jesus. They were, yay, Jesus team. And Jesus rebuked them. He said, "You do not know what spirit you are of. For the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them."
Yep.
And the same thing could happen with AI.
Yeah.
um, in conflict with what God intends,
Mm,
leading to unintended and potentially harmful
yeah.
consequences for that. And then there's
And
bias
for
and
those of you who don't
discrimination. Go
remember,
ahead. I'm sorry.
that's what Isaac Asimov in his I, Robot, one of the first things he put in uh, to keep the artificial intelligence or the robot from wreaking havoc is say, you will not harm human beings.
Right.
Unfortunately, people right now, without a good moral compass, like the one that Asimov was saying, you could wreak havoc because right now they don't have that, and that's something Asimov
Right.
understood.
Right. And to further complicate that, let's say that we did want. All right, let's do that. Let's put Asimov's laws of robotics into our AI. Okay. Well, there's a problem with that. The first problem is defining what is harm to a human being.
Hmm.
And the way we're going right now in our society here in the United States is anything you say to anybody that makes their feelings hurt is harm. So how can you bring correction to somebody? You've got somebody that is living a life that is contrary to the word of God, it's contrary to the spirit of God. They're living in such a way that they will not inherit the kingdom of God. But there's a law that says you cannot harm people, so you cannot say anything that would hurt their feelings. So, under that definition of harm, you can't correct them.
Yeah,
Why? Because if you try to correct them, you're going to hurt their feelings,
yeah.
and that's against the
Hmm.
rule. So, the first question is how are we going to define what is harm to even program that into an AI?
Oh yeah.
Somebody's subjective opinion is going to have to be chosen to be the guideline to define what harm is.
Hmm.
And if it's not based on the word of God, if it's not based on the things of the spirit of God, you're going to get a wrong definition. So you're going to build the whole thing wrong.
Hmm.
And I'm especially conscious of this because my dad was a land surveyor for 35 years. And he talked to me about how, you know, important it was to be precise. We'd turn our angles and set our points, and then we would extend a line out from our points. And there was 60 seconds in a degree, 60 degrees in a minute, and 90 degrees, in an angle or whatever. But if you didn't have your instrument precisely on that line, you would veer off by just a little bit. And a good example of that, bringing up science fiction and space and stuff like that, was men going to the moon. Now some people want to say, well, that was all a conspiracy theory. They didn't actually, they staged it. I don't even want to get into that. That's irrelevant. But what is relevant is the idea that if they'd have been off by a very, very, very little degree, they would have totally missed the moon. Okay, assuming if they went there to begin with, they would have totally missed it. Why? Because the farther out they got from the source, the further away they would have been. So it's the same thing here. We need to have a good standard to base what we're doing on. Otherwise, the farther away we get, the more off we're going to be. And that's what needs to happen with this. So, you know, just to take a look about bias and discrimination is one of the things it mentions here,
Oh yeah.
that has to be looked at. And we see that already.
Hmm.
Depending upon what questions you ask it, you will get answers. And security risks, okay, cyber attacks, manipulate public opinion,
Yeah.
okay, compromise critical infrastructure, autonomous weapons. Now, this one, I didn't even think of this, Barry. AI powered weapons could be used in warfare, leading to faster and potentially more destructive conflicts. The
I guess
development
you
of
didn't
blue.
watch Terminator then.
Oh, well, yeah, I did watch Terminator. I forgot. You know,
Yeah.
I'll tell you
And
what. My excuse now for missing stuff like that, Barry, is old codger syndrome. Yeah, I'm an old codger now, so
Hey, I'm
That's my excuse.
58, so I'm
Oh, you're getting there. You got a lot of ways to go, but
yeah. Then there's also I'm thinking of another setup thing. Uh, Actually, I'm thinking of Fahrenheit 451, which
right.
describes the scenario you mentioned earlier. The one where they said they had a society where, okay, we don't want to offend anybody, we don't want to hurt or do any harm or anything. In reality, the people in that story were miserable, depressed, they were on drugs and everything. They even had a very twisted version of Jesus that was all
Mm,
nice, but never said what needs to be heard.
right.
So, and this was way Bradbury. And
Right.
and Babylon B actually came up with a satire recently. Um, and the problem isn't chat actually. It was more like the people running the show who were the problem. And hopefully, and yet, Truth GPT, which is an alternative, but the problem is they're going to have the exact same issue as the chat thing. Hmm?
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on these, but surveillance and privacy concerns, and we have that coming. A concentration of power.
Mm.
Who's going to control this? AI arms race, and then they say an existential threat, meaning the development of highly advanced, uncontrolled AI systems could pose a risk to the long-term survival of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you got the system that you're developing telling you that it's a danger itself, uh, I'd pay pretty close attention to that if it was me, you know. To mitigate these potential dangers, researchers, policymakers, and industry leaders must collaborate to develop robust AI safety and ethics guidelines. And there, once
Yep.
again, who's going to define the ethics? Who's going to
Yep.
be the source of authority?
Yep.
You know. So I've got uh, I've got it open here, and I've got plenty of room to ask it some questions here. Barry, do you have any questions that you would like to ask?
Oh, let's see what this version of chat says about uh, at chat. Should Christians be worried about chat artificial or chat PT? And let's see what this version comes up with. Maybe it'll do a better job.
I'm going to add the word conservative.
Okay, that would be better. Oh wait, then ask should liberals be worried?
Okay, what we'll do is we'll ask both questions. Could
What?
we'll ask
Ask
both.
both,
We'll
yeah.
ask conservative first, and then we'll go back and ask liberal. Okay.
Okay.
Should conservative Christians be worried about artificial intelligence? You want to say it that way?
All right.
You can let me know. I'm just a typist here. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Let's see what we get.
Hmm. Okay, what's it coming up with?
All right.
Wow.
Oh, see, this is giving me a repeat of what I just read.
Oh.
So there, once again, what you said, garbage in, garbage out, and I'm saying that this is garbage, but I'm saying that in the sense of it only has so much right now to refer to give a response.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a
Okay.
lot better.
So
Oh, how
let's
about the other question? Should
so let's
liberal
look
Christian?
let's look at this. I'll just look at it real quick. Whether conservative Christians or any other group should be worried about artificial intelligence depends on the context and specific concerns. It is essential to recognize that AI is a tool, and like any tool, its impact is determined by how it's used and governed. I bet if we enter in liberal, we'll probably get the best thing. But the basic general answer is ethical concerns, bias and
Mm.
discrimination, privacy and surveillance, and compatibility. Now, here's one: compatibility with religious beliefs. Some conservative Christians may worry about AI's compatibility, sorry, with their faith, particularly if they perceive AI as attempting to replicate or replace human intelligence or consciousness. Now, see, there's the limitation of it right there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people who are designing and creating this thing, they have no recognition or belief in the spiritual realm.
Nope.
They consider everything to be natural and physical. There's one guy in particular I'm thinking of right now who's really popular with the World Economic Forum, and his basic idea about human consciousness is that we're all just a bunch of electrical charges
Mm.
and electrical particles that are firing off, and so there's no soul,
Yeah.
there's no spirit, there's nothing like that. It's all just basically natural. And so, given that, there isn't any reason to consider human beings to be of any greater importance than any other animal on the earth
Mm.
or any other creature on the earth. And that's where a lot of these bizarre ideas come
Mm.
from that actually do harm to humans. We're talking about don't want to do harm to human beings.
Yeah.
Some of these ideas that you do harm to people because the idea is, well, we're not any different than a monkey. We're not any
Yeah.
different than a squirrel or
Mm.
whatever. So just whoever you decide is more important, that's who we defend.
Yeah.
And
Now
but
let's move on to what it said about liberal Christians.
all right, let's look at that. Do liberal
Christian.
Christians need to be worried about AI? Is that good?
Yep. Let's see.
Like conservative Christians, liberal Christians, or any other group may have concerns about AI depending on the context. Let's go on. All right, so it's giving me the same list. AI is a tool. That's what it said before.
Mm.
Here are some aspects to consider. Ethical concerns. All right, ethical, bias and discrimination, privacy and surveillance. Okay.
Yeah.
Social justice. Now
Mm.
that's a new one. Social justice and inclusivity. Liberal Christians may place a particular emphasis on social justice and inclusivity. They may be concerned about AI's potential to exacerbate social inequalities or disproportionately affect marginalized communities. Uh, oh, now when I read this, the way it's written, the very last sentence is telling. It is crucial to work towards ensuring AI is developed and used in ways that promote social justice, inclusivity, and equity. Notice how it says that. It is
Yes.
crucial to work towards ensuring AI is developed and
Mm.
used in ways that promote social justice,
Mm.
inclusivity, and equity. So it's not neutral, is it? I mean, I wouldn't consider that a neutral statement. Would you, Barry?
No, but I smell a door of opportunity for some cooperation because uh, to, for liberal Christians and conservative Christians to work together, because both of them should be thinking this thing should not be used to harm human beings.
Right.
Okay, on what planet does human being exclude any group? It doesn't. So that can be a priority to protect this from being used to harm all human beings. Uh, the AI itself cannot really do anything, as far as I could tell, for social justice. I actually do care in the sense, but I don't like the way the keyboard warriors are doing it these days.
Hmm.
Uh, because I do believe in equality, but you can't. Uh, but it's not going to come with some of the shenanigans I see.
Right.
Yes. So there has to be a bit of balance. But yes, I see some common ground because uh, you care, because all Christians care about justice. It's just that our focus tends to be on different things and what's important. That's why I have a little trouble getting involved with pro life when my focus is a little bit more on people with disability, more
Right.
so than I am on others. Doesn't mean I don't care, it's just that that's where my focus is. but
Yeah.
it's but I'm
Yeah.
opening
We
up
all
to
have different
yeah,
areas, that we're concerned about, and it doesn't mean that we don't care about the other areas. It's just that's a particular area, like that touches our lives,
yeah,
and so it's an area that we have concern.
yeah.
I was thinking about asking a question like this. Let me
Let's go for it.
if I can find my mouse again. Man, I keep losing
All
that mouse.
right.
Okay.
It
Oh, I'm
that's
good. I'm
on.
there. Okay. Is belief and faith in Jesus Christ the only way to come to the knowledge of God? Is belief and faith in Jesus Christ the only way to come to the knowledge of God?
Hmm.
Does that sound like a good question to you?
Hmm.
Do you like the question? Would you like me to change the question?
Actually, I would have had this question instead. Would belief and faith in the knowledge of Jesus and God help in dealing with the issue of artificial intelligence?
Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, let's keep because yeah,
So let's change that. WOLD. Would belief and faith in Jesus Christ. And how else? What else did you say?
and the knowledge of God
Okay, hold on.
help with
Lost
dealing
my
with this.
mouse again. I'm trying to. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, there we go. Now I'm good. And the knowledge of God.
help with dealing with the issue of artificial intelligence. If these guys did the job right, it'll say yes because of a lot of the uh, moral instruction codes that are taught through scriptures
Uh
can
huh.
influence and make decisions. So if that
Okay. All right, you ready to go?
go for it.
All right, I'm waiting.
Uh, what's it saying? Whoa.
Wait. Well, hang on a minute. That's my first question. Do liberal. All right. Okay. Belief and faith in Jesus Christ and the knowledge of God can provide a foundation for ethical thinking and guidance when addressing the challenges and potential issues associated with artificial intelligence. Here are some ways in which religious faith may contribute to the conversation about AI. Number one, ethical framework. Religious teachings can offer a moral and ethical framework that can help guide the development and use of AI technologies. Many religious principles, such as compassion, justice, and care for the vulnerable, can be used to inform AI ethics discussions and ensure that AI systems are designed with, now, here once again, with human values in mind. See, to me, I'm okay. I will say I'm a conservative Christian. Okay,
Yes.
um, I'm probably on a borderline of being a fundamentalist, except I'm not a cessationist.
Yeah.
And to me, this answer sounds like something you would get from a liberal Christian.
Um. Well,
Tell me
I
whether or not you agree with that.
well the reality is my theology may point me towards conservative, but the reality is I actually sometimes, because I do care about the need for justice, because I tend to uh, be, I'm more libertarian in terms of the
Okay.
social and yes, the needs of that. So I'm not a true conservative. So I would say this is good, and I would say this really is good. It resonates, but my instinct, my spiritual instinct, is that make sure that that quote unquote human value aligns with what God says is right,
Right.
and communicate that in a way that's clear. Hmm?
Right.
That
And
would be. Now, do I
um,
sound like a liberal or a conservative or somebody who's guided by the principles of Scripture?
yeah, and I'm thinking, way back in the early part of the 20th century, the last part of the 19th century, there did develop this division between what was then called the social gospel and what was called the fundamental, which came to in fact, the term fundamentalist actually came from a series of books or articles called the Fundamentals
Hmm.
that were written at the beginning of the 20th century, and there just became this gap between the fundamentalists and what came to be known as, well, it started out as social gospel, then it became known as liberals. And I don't really think that that is what God intended. I think that people who are fundamentalists need to have a little bit more concern with the welfare of their fellow man.
Yes.
And the people that are so called liberals or social gospel people need to have a little more concern about eternity.
Um.
So both sides need to come closer together. But I'm not going to say you sound like a liberal. You don't really, because after talking with you at this time, I
No.
don't. I think you're right. Your theology is conservative, but you do have compassion for others, which would be natural for you because you have things you've had to overcome in life, and so you've done that, and you've also seen the way people have mistreated other people, and so you're going to be sensitive, very much sensitive to that. Whereas of somebody else, they might say on paper, so to speak, they have compassion, but because of the things they've went through in life or the things they've not gone through in life,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have as much overt compassion and concern for people
No.
because their mind is consumed with the things of this world,
Mm.
more than it is with making sure that people are treated right. So I think there's a balance here. It's just that when I
Yeah.
read this, uh, it was the way that it said it uh, let's look at the next one: human
Good.
dignity and worth. Many religious beliefs emphasize the importance of human dignity. Now, see, now it's gone more general.
Mm.
Many religious beliefs. I mean, that could be from any religion.
That's
Uh,
true.
Many religious beliefs emphasize the importance of human dignity and the unique value of every individual. This perspective can help promote the development of AI technologies that respect and enhance human life rather than undermine or exploit it. And then that goes right back to our question about the dangers, doesn't it? The ethical values and the things that need to be addressed there and concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then number 3 here. Let's see. Community and collaboration. Religious communities can serve as forums for discussion and collaboration on AI related issues. By bringing together people with diverse perspectives and expertise, religious communities can contribute to the development of more inclusive and ethically and responsible AI scene. So, without labeling this as liberal or conservative or whatever, even just reading this, the several questions we've asked and the answers have been given, the idea of inclusivity seems to be, how can I say, baked in?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, baked into the responses. We got to be inclusive. We got to be inclusive. And that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
From my point of view, Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life.
Mm-hmm.
No one and no one means no one.
Can come
No
before
one.
the
No
Father
one is
except through
not
Him.
inclusive. Is
Yeah.
that what you just said? No one is not inclusive. No one comes to me or comes to the Father except through
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
See, and that's where the conflict will arise.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at this. A spiritual perspective on AI may remind us of the limitations of technology.
That's true.
And I think that's what you were pointing out earlier about people just believing what they read instead of engaging in critical thinking.
Mm.
And that also goes along with what Elon Musk was saying in that interview with Tucker Carlson, that his
Yep.
greatest fear was that AI would progress to the point where it wouldn't need our input. It could actually create its own input. And in programming, I do some programming. That's called a recursive program.
Yep.
And that basically means you have a function that calls itself over and over again because you've got this big, huge problem and it's so huge and complex that you can't just call that function one time and get the answer. You need to call that function over and over and over again to kind of break the problem down into smaller and smaller pieces.
Mm.
And what you do then is you solve the smallest possible part of the problem that you can with that same function, not a different one. You solve the smallest possible problem with that function, and then they called it going back up the stack. You solve the bigger problem by repeating the solution you found
Mm.
for the simplest problem, and applying that to artificial intelligence. And I'm probably going to get lambasted by computer people, but from because I probably just totally wrecked that whole concept. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea is it'll get to the point where AI will not even need our input
Mm.
in order to come to a conclusion. But that conclusion will be based on what? It's like you said earlier. It'll
Yep.
be based on what it was given,
That's right.
based on what it was fed.
Yeah.
And then the danger is because, well, two dangers. Number one, I think Elon pointed this out. It'll be so good at writing and so good at communicating, it won't be clunky anymore. It'll be so good at it that you won't be able to tell whether or not this was written by artificial intelligence or whether it was written
Mm.
by a real human being.
Yeah. And Google is right now working on things, even to sharpen it even better and better. That's why Elon, and that's why the guy at Gab was probably responding to what it was, and that's why you're probably putting that extra stress, not because he wanted to sound like a nut job, but because he was trying to alert people, and sometimes you have to alarm people to get them people off their butt. I'm sorry, but conservatives have a tendency to complain and not move and do.
Right.
And that is a reality. That's why somebody like me gets like, but yeah, we do need to think. And yet, and Christian, especially to recognize that shouldn't say to himself, "Oh, they don't want." No, they need us. They need Christians to get involved in that, and not just leave it. And I'm thinking right to the conservative Christians that are watching. I hope that you shouldn't just leave it to the liberal Christian who get off their butt and do. We need to get
Right.
off our butt and we listen to what the Holy Spirit and guide. But also, I know that the Lord is able to pull the plug. But the thing is, we need to and not live in fear. All right. I know you guys got a whole ton of information, but the point is to make you aware and not live in fear like, oh no, hey, hold on. That's what, why do you suppose Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, the good, the great, all these others would want it? It wasn't to scare you, but make you aware that, hey, this is the potential danger and the potential good. Be aware of what's going on. They've been saying that since the 50s and 60s. So when I listen to Elon, I'm like, dude, you're not saying anything new.
Right. Right. The only thing that concerned me in that interview that I watched was where he had said that he was associated with somebody earlier on. I don't know who it was, where he was from. I don't want to misspeak, but
Oh, he was the guy who was the CEO of Google, I believe.
I think, well, yeah, I think maybe you're right. I think that's who it was he was initially involved in this with, and why he left AI so that it used to be open source, and the idea was, everybody will have a ability to be involved in the development of this,
Mm,
and now it's not open source anymore,
no.
and open source just simply means it's not owned by one entity, one company, or one person. But he said one of his major concerns with that guy, and one of the reasons that he left that early on, was because that guy was interested in creating an artificial intelligence that could be a god.
Yeah. He was calling
And
Elon a species. Oh, how species of you? How dare you think of humans, or and all that?
yeah, well, but I mean, I can, how I don't know if I said this to you during the podcast earlier or if it was before we got online. But a good debater is able to debate for either
Yeah, oh
side
yeah.
of an issue without getting emotionally involved. And from a purely human point of view, not taking into consideration scripture or prophecy or anything like that, there's a sense in which having an artificial intelligence like that could give us all the answers and just be a god and resolve all the conflicts in the world. I mean, wow, wouldn't that be great? Because it'd be something that we created as human beings, and it doesn't require us to have any faith in an unseen spiritual realm or an unseen spiritual God. Why? Because, well, it's right there. I mean, there's the database, there's the computer power, there's the physical structure. I mean, Barry, we could just bow down and worship it, and it would show
Yeah.
us, it would give us the answer for everything. And there wouldn't be any conflict. There wouldn't be any
Oh,
division. Why? Because if you opened your mouth and said anything, it could just kill you and get you out of the way. And we wouldn't be responsible. It was the
mm,
AI that did it, not me. But it would keep us all in line. It would bring world peace because nobody'd be able to question it.
uh-huh. And yet, when the Lord led the children of Israel out of Israel, no, out of Egypt, had they seen the all power and all that, what did they do? They questioned.
Right.
They like did, and it didn't matter that God was very visibly leading, and some people probably questioned, came up with their own
Oh, yeah.
thing. No, the problem is this: even if we did something like this, human nature, we have a corrupt nature that
Right.
will cause us to either rebel, question, whatever. It doesn't work. And I didn't get this just from reading the scriptures. Yeah, if you have an issue with that, go talk to Isaac Asimov. Go talk to Arthur C. Clarke. Go talk to the Protestant atheists who wrote. They did a better job warning than the modern day prophets do today.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I think the bottom line, Jesus said this. He said, "Do not fear those who can kill the body and do
Yep.
no more, but fear him who, after the killing of the body, has power to cast both body and soul
Mm-hmm.
into hell." And then he reemphasized the importance of that statement by saying, "Yes, I tell you, fear him."
Mm-hmm.
So I think the answer to today's podcast: Do we need to fear? Do Christians need to fear artificial intelligence? No, we don't need to fear artificial intelligence. What we need to do is fear the Lord. The
Yep.
fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
True. Oh, good grief. And it helps to know that God wants us to have free will. He chose. God, who knew everything that was going to happen, yet He gave human beings the ability to have free will and to make decisions for ourselves. Guess what? This AI thing that's being talked about sounds like we wouldn't have free will. Oh, but that's not what God wants us to be able to ask questions,
Right.
to come to Him. He wants us to freely come to Him, and yet, then, then that's our corrupt nature will continue until we, and even if you surrender, oh, you're like, man, now we're going to get into a fun talk of Armenian and Calvinism, which we can save
Yeah.
for another day.
Yeah, we can save that for another day.
Yes, yes, I know a fellow who probably would love to join in, and he is, well, right now, I think he's a tentative open theist, Dan Kent.
Okay.
And who knows? Maybe that's a.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Okay, thanks, Randy. And thanks for coming. And I think we can wrap up. Hmm?
Right.
What do you think?
Thank you for having me on the podcast again, Barry. I
It's a
really enjoyed
pleasure.
be working with you, and thank you very much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. All right, folks. I hope you have a blessed day and see you when we see you.